If I walked into school one morning and counted how many times I heard the word dumb in one day, there is no way I would be able to fit it on one hand, or probably two for that matter, because I hear that word thrown around all the time. Whether it's someone saying, "This is so dumb," or maybe someone saying, "I'm so dumb." And I mean, one day I was listening to this and I almost lost it because I was so tired of hearing people talk like this. But what does that have to do with an iGen video? Well, let's find out. Welcome everyone to Through God's Eyes, Part 1. One day I was sitting across a table from someone. They looked at me, they said, "Jared, I'm so stupid." And so I looked at them across the table and I said, "Listen, you are what you say you are. So be careful how you define yourself." And when I said that, it even surprised me. I was like, whoa, where did that come from? But it's honestly true. And speaking about how we define ourselves, let me read from this passage starting in Daniel chapter 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, chief of his court officials, to bring into the king's service some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility, young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude in every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them the language and literature of Babylonians. God's people are in trouble once again. So let me give some context. I mean, most of us have probably heard about Daniel and we kind of know his story. I mean, when he was young, and I mean really, really young, he was taken into captivity by Babylon, who had just invaded his nation of Judah. And what we learned from this verse is that Babylon wanted the smartest and the strongest, and they took them to work for the king. And with that criteria, Daniel was chosen. So that gives us an idea. He's pretty smart, pretty strong, pretty handsome guy. But let's look at his situation. He had worshipped God his entire life, but now he's taken into captivity by a nation who doesn't serve God. I mean, it's even discouraged for him to worship God. So in this story, we have a pretty young kid faced with some tough decisions. Among those who were chosen were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief official gave them new names. To Daniel the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah Shadrach, to Mishael Meshach, and to Azariah Abednego. Now, this is kind of weird. First, you kidnap a kid, ask him what their name is, and as soon as they tell you, you say, nope, this is your name now. I mean, imagine the situation. If it wasn't bad enough that they were bringing him into a totally new nation, they're now stripping him of his name. But it actually does make a little bit of sense. I mean, these guys are foreigners, and the king wants them to be assimilated into Babylonian culture. I mean, he wants them to fit in to the society that they're now living in. And what if I told you that we deal with the same kind of thing today? Just as Daniel and his friends were foreigners to Babylon, we are foreigners on this earth. Think about it. We serve one God, a God who is largely discouraged against serving. We want to live our lives in a pure way, but the world wants us to live it as everyone else does. We're just like Daniel entering into Babylon, a pagan nation who ignores God. Now in this story, Daniel's given a new name because they want him to fit in with this nation. And that's something that we deal with every single day as well. And I'll get to what I mean in a second, but let's take a look at how Daniel responds to this forced assimilation. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel. You see, Daniel refuses to drink their wine because it goes against what he stands for. It goes against what God told him. Now, it may seem like a small thing, but here's the thing. A small act like that builds a habit. A habit builds a character builds a lifestyle. And what do I mean turning it into a lifestyle? Well, when this video is over, I encourage you to look at Daniel chapter 6, a story about how Daniel's friends handled the forced assimilation. But let me bring it back to earlier in the video when I was talking about how Daniel was assigned a new name. I said that this still happens to us every single day. And what exactly did I mean? Well, I was talking about how the king gave him the name because the king wanted him to fit in with everyone else. He didn't want him to hold on to what he knew before. And this happens to us, except the names are a little bit different. Failure, incapable, stupid, useless, unlovable, imperfect. How many times have we heard these names before, whether it's someone else hurling them at us or whether it's us labeling ourselves with them? Ladies and gentlemen, Satan wants to come in and label you with these words to force you to fit in with the culture of the world. And other people are going to throw these at you until you eventually become like everyone else. But listen to me, because we are not called to live like everyone else. We are redeemed by God. With God's power, we are called above the ways of this world. We are called by a new name, given a new label, and that is a child of God. You are a child of God. The world does not and cannot define you. God defines who you are, and He says that you were made perfectly. It's time to stop defining yourself with the world's labels, but to start seeing yourself through God's eyes. Peace.